You ever want to know what the median net worth was for Americans? We got that and much more today.
Brian, I am so excited about this because one, I love sharing where the average or the median American is. And then what I love doing is I love acknowledging, okay, is that good? Is that where we should be? Or is that a big NI needs improvement? So I'm excited we get to share that today.
Well, if it was good, there'd be no need for financial mutants.
Well, that's
As
right.
we're going to quickly learn today. And that's what, let's go ahead and I'd love to just share the number. Because if you pull this up, because I want to then build some bones or put some meat on the bones about the context of what does this number even mean. So the median net worth for the average American is right under $193,000.
So you might be thinking initially, like, holy cow, that sounds pretty good. I mean, it seems like you guys say all the time that 60% of Americans couldn't come up with $1,000 for an emergency without having to go into debt. And you're saying the median is 193. That must be a good news, positive thing.
Well, as we've shared because this data is coming from the U.S. Census Bureau, but we know that from the Fed, the Federal Reserve, when they've come out and shared also, it's kind of the you call it just the sibling data on how does this data break out on where the assets are. It's usually in home equity, which scares me because we all know you can't eat your house really. So I want to give some context because I think there's three big takeaways when I see this number. Is the first thing is Americans are not saving enough. And hear me out. Here's what I mean by this. Now, I know this is the median for all Americans, 20-somethings, 60-year-olds, but if you just took this into account and said, if you were a 60-something-year-old and you had to live off of this money, what does $192,000 provide for you using the 4% rule? It's right around, it's actually less than $8,000 a year.
So, not great.
So you can quickly see this is not enough to actually provide for your family and in your household in retirement.
And so then the second thing that we would likely discern from this information is, okay, if the median net worth is around $192,000, it seems like a number of Americans are starting late. They're not taking their financial life seriously, because you would think if we have a lot of retirees, a lot of folks in their 50s, 60s, and so on, it would draw the median, it would draw the average up. And yet, that's not the case. And we know from tons of research that we've done that the average American does not saving and investing and seriously consider building for their future until like age 33. So there's almost a decade early on in the career that a lot of people don't even start thinking about. And I think the numbers are reflected here in the median.
I remember when I was meeting with our publicist when I did the book tour, and they said, "What's y'all's contrarian advice? What makes you different?" And the thing I remember telling her was, we think anybody can be wealthy. And what drives me crazy is when I see this data, and once again, I'm going to make some assumptions, because as we've already shared, this is total net worth, so, and a lot of this is home equity. That's but right. Let's just assume that this was actually usable financial assets that you could use. If you were somebody who was trying to just have a goal of $193,000 by the time you were 65, I want to give context of somebody finding out at age 25 that they needed that amount of money. That's only saving $35 a month.
That's like
that's coffee. That's the coffee.
Yeah, that's stopping getting coffee weekly. Maybe not going out to a restaurant.
That's the latte decision for like once a week. Yep. So and then I said, okay, for a 35-year-old, maybe you're like the typical American. You don't discover financial assets until you're in your 30s. It's $116 a month. Now we're just talking about, hey, if you just don't go out to eat once or twice a month, you got enough to actually have what the median net worth is for Americans. And then for a 45-year-old, it's $347 a month. And so now we're talking about half of a car payment. And then these are the type of decisions that I want you to know is that this shows that Americans are procrastinators. It's not an income issue. It's not an ability to build this. A lot of times I think it's just people don't prioritize building assets. And that leads to the next point. They just don't have a plan.
Yeah, they don't recognize that having a plan in place, having some sort of strategy around what they're doing with their money can have a huge impact. And by not having a plan, they don't recognize that, man, my dollars can be powerful. And one day, if I do this right, I start this early enough, I can actually build up an army of dollar bills that works harder than I can. It can literally do more for me than I can do for myself. But a lot of Americans just kind of bury their heads in the sand and don't pay attention to that fact. And the longer you wait, the longer it takes for that information to really take hold, the harder the journey becomes. And I think a lot of Americans get later on in life and they just end up throwing up their hands and, oh, well, it's too late. I can't do anything now.
But look, this is why I love that you guys are here. Is we know not anybody out here tuning in to a live stream on a personal finance show, you're not average. Mm-hmm. You're much better than average. And that actually shows up. We have a show that's actually getting released this Friday. Are You Richer Than Your Friends 2025 edition? And what I love is we have taken the average American, we've taken the Financial Mutant Survey show, and then we've taken the Abound Wealth client data, and we've kind of created our own little mashup so you guys can get it, inspired and motivated to know you doing things differently, take an active role in your personal finance is actually generating tremendous fruit that will just provide for you, provide for your family, and create a tremendous legacy.
This show was so much fun to do because it allowed us to compile all 3 of those surveys together into a singular show. So if you are not subscribed, make sure right now, as you're hearing my voice this moment, subscribe to the channel. So that way you know when this show comes out this Friday. And if you want to get a little backstory, a little back information before the show comes out, we also have 2 other shows that we've recently released. One walking through our Financial Mutant survey and one walking through the client survey. The deep dive show coming out this Friday is going to be a survey comparing all 3, and it's super, super fun, super, super exciting. So make sure you check that out this Friday.
Look, I like the fact that gets me so excited about this, and it's, once again, we were deliberate, but it's funny how things just happen in this, divine way. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the book that inspired me. There were 2 books. Y'all know I've heard me say this a gazillion times. The Wealthy Barber and The Millionaire Next Door. Yep. And one of the things I loved about The Millionaire Next Door is it kind of dispelled all these different counter rules that of what the typical millionaire looks like. And I remember being so motivated by how good that data was because it kind of nourished me when I needed motivation to stay the course. What I love, Bo, is that somehow we've been able to kind of take that mantle and share the data because we have such a unique opportunity with all of our financial mutants out there in the audience. We have the unique opportunity we have millionaire clients that we can kind of reach out to every year and find out what they've got going on and then create incredible content through your generosity, through your involvement. I do not take that for granted. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just so cool that our community steps up so that we can hopefully pay it forward and let people be a little bit better with money.